All right, let's get right into it. When you hear the word minimalism, you probably think of an aesthetic, right? Clean lines, white space, all that stuff. But today, we're going to look at it as a seriously powerful business strategy. This isn't just about looking slick, it's about being understood, being remembered, and yeah, being way more successful. And that really is the question, isn't it? We're all living in this world of absolute excess. Every single brand is screaming for attention, and it just creates this wall of noise that feels impossible to break through. So, how do you make your voice the one that actually cuts through? And if that last question didn't light a fire under you, this number should. 40 seconds. That's it. That is the median time you get to grab someone's attention and make your point. In a world this distracted, every single second is precious, and complexity is your worst enemy. So, here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the big challenge, brand overload. Then, we'll look at the solution, what I'm calling strategic simplicity. After that, we'll break down exactly why it works, why it sells, why it converts, and why it lasts. And we'll wrap up with some real, practical steps for you to get started. Okay, first things first, let's really set the stage. We are swimming in a sea of constant information, endless choices, and just nonstop marketing. This is the world of brand overload, and it's the massive problem every single business out there is trying to solve. So what's the answer to all this chaos? Well, it's an elegant one, strategic simplicity. And I want to be clear, this isn't just about deleting things. It's about being super intentional, designing your brand to be a clear, direct signal in a world that is just full of noise. So let's define what that really means. Minimalist branding is, at its core, a strategic choice. The whole goal is to make your brand ridiculously easy to get. You prioritize clarity so people know what you do, like instantly. You prioritize impact so they actually remember you later. So the key takeaway here, it's not about being boring or empty. It's about being incredibly direct and, honestly, way more effective. Now, simplicity isn't some one-size-fits-all formula. Think of it like a spectrum. On one end, you've got the extreme minimalism of a brand like Muji. I mean, their whole thing is the branding is almost invisible. The product is the star. But on the other end, you have a brand like Bang & Olufsen. They use a super clean, simple look, but they pair it with really rich, detailed content. Both work because they found the perfect balance for their audience. And please don't make the mistake of thinking this is just some niche trend for design lovers. Nope. Research from Google, yeah, that Google, shows that most people, your actual customers, prefer designs that are simple and familiar. This isn't just a cool aesthetic, it's a data-backed strategy that appeals to almost everyone. Okay, so how does all this touchy-feely design stuff actually translate into, money? In this next part, we're going to connect the dots between a simple brand and your bottom line. Let's see how clarity really does drive revenue. The number one most powerful benefit of simplicity is clarity. It just cuts through the mental fog. When a customer finds your brand, they shouldn't have to play detective to figure out what you sell. I mean, think of a brand called Sewing Parts Online. The name alone is perfect clarity. You know exactly what they do before you even land on their site. That kind of directness builds instant confidence. By stripping away all the extra fluff, you're not just tidying up your website, you are making your brand fundamentally easier for the human brain to remember. It's a psychology thing called cognitive ease. Our brains are hardwired to prefer things that are simple to process. So in a super crowded market, being the brand that actually sticks in someone's head, that's a huge advantage. And why does being memorable matter so much? Well, because being familiar builds trust. And trust has a direct financial payoff. Get this, a staggering 87% of consumers say they are willing to spend more money with a brand they trust. See the connection? Simplicity leads to recall leads to trust, and trust leads to revenue. It's a straight line. This quote right here, this pretty much captures the holy grail of branding. I mean, think about it for a second. The Nike swoosh, the McDonald's golden arches. They are so simple and so iconic that they don't even need the company name next to them anymore. You see them anywhere, totally out of context, and you know exactly what you're looking at. That is the ultimate power of a simple, memorable brand. So, simplicity helps you sell by building trust and getting you remembered. But it also has a direct impact on what a customer actually does. Let's dig into how a minimalist approach can seriously boost your conversion rates. You know that feeling when you're faced with way too many choices, buttons, and pop-ups, and you just end up doing nothing? Well, there's a name for that: analysis paralysis. Simple design gets rid of all those distractions. It creates a clear, obvious path. A brand like Brickface nails this. They know you want a quote, so boom, the contact form is right there at the top. No digging, no confusion, just a straight line to the thing you want to do. And look, too much information is just as bad as too many choices. It can totally overwhelm your customer. Take a company like IT Sync. They sell complex software, right? But they don't try to explain the whole thing in their tagline. Instead, they use a simple, powerful phrase: applied innovation, breakthrough results. It's brilliant. It communicates authority and makes you curious without burying you in details. Now brace yourself for this next one, because this is a really big deal. Just look at this chart. An unbelievable 95% of websites fail to meet basic accessibility standards. Let that sink in for a second. That's not just a small problem. That's a massive, massive opportunity. Simple design, with its clean layouts and clear navigation, is naturally more accessible. So by simplifying, you're not just making things a little better for a few people. You are opening your doors to everyone, and that dramatically widens your potential audience. Okay, we've talked about selling, we've talked about converting, but one of the most powerful arguments for simplicity is all about the long game. It's about building a brand that's going to last. Trends are fun, but let's be honest, they have a shelf life. A brand that's built on the latest design fad is going to look dated in just a couple years. But a brand built on simple, classic ideas, that's timeless. I mean, the perfect example is the Chanel No. 5 bottle. For 100 years, it's basically been unchanged, and it still screams luxury and class. That is the power of timeless design. All right, so you're probably sold on the why by now. So let's talk about the how. And don't worry, this doesn't have to be some huge, scary project. Let's walk through a few practical steps you can take to bring this kind of strategic simplicity to your own brand. First, just analyze. Ask yourself, does this approach actually fit my brand and my customers? Second, start small. Seriously, you don't need to redesign everything overnight. Pick one thing, your core message, your logo, and just simplify that. Third, look at the journey your customer takes. Where can you remove a step, make things easier for them? And last, and this is crucial, be consistent. Whatever you simplify, apply that thinking everywhere to create an experience people can trust. So, to wrap this all up in a neat little bow, clarity sells, period. Simplicity makes you memorable. Fewer distractions lead to more action. Timeless design is a long-term investment. And absolutely none of this works if you're not consistent. And that brings us to the final question, the one I really want you to take away from this. Look at your own brand, your own website, your own messaging. Forget about a total redesign for a second. What is the one single, very first thing you could simplify, like right now, to make your brand just a little bit clearer, a little more memorable, and a little more effective?